Everybody, welcome to the Firefighters Chalkboard Podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Jones. Today we've got a special guest. We've got Mr. Calvin Wilson with us. Mr. Calvin started the fire service in 1972 in Roanoke County, Virginia. He had 32 years with the City of Myrtle Beach Fire Department before he retired, and he's been an instructor in the fire service since 1978. Mr. Calvin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Wayne.
So the way it's going to go is we're going to ask some questions, get your feedback on them, and see what kind of conversation we can bring from that. You've been an instructor as long as you have. There's a wealth of knowledge there, and we're going to try to pull some out of that well and pass it on to everybody else.
Okay.
All right. So when did you think you were ready to start working as a fire instructor?
Let's see. I've been on a job in Virginia about 3 or 4 years, and I seen how things were going at that place, and there wasn't too many people out there to help you or to educate you. So I decided, well, let's get into it so I can start passing some knowledge on to the people that's coming into the service.
Okay.
And I started then, and when I moved down here in '83, I sitting there thinking about it, and somebody said, "Well, you need to go on and just move everything down here," which, you know, a lot of stuff doesn't transfer, so I had to go back through the process again and got it all set up and started teaching and started enjoying it and looking at everything, and I figured if we just keep it going as long as I can.
And keeping it going on for a long time you have. Everybody, Mr. Calvin is not a spring chicken. I pick with him all the time about it. He's a really, really good friend of mine. We do a lot of teaching together. I've had the pleasure of both taking classes from him as well as working beside him. And we've been battling. The last 30 minutes we've been trying to get his computer to work right. So we've got some decent audio for tonight, but everybody that's going to be looking at our Facebook podcast and stuff, you won't be able to see Mr. Calvin. You'll just have a little sunset view back there. But at least we get to listen to all the knowledge and wisdom he's got to pour out for us tonight. So, like I say, you've been teaching since 1978. That's something that's unheard of. I mean, you're talking about almost 50 years worth of instruction in the fire service and still doing it every day. So, with all that time and stuff, and the students that you have had the opportunity to, bring through the fire service, what do you think is one of the most important things for an instructor to remember?
The biggest thing is you got to learn who your people are, got to have their background, what their feeling is, and what their specialty is going to be. Not everybody wants to do hazmat. Not everybody wants to do rescue. And I tried to cope and fix it so the students can have a chance to progress and succeed where they want to go in their service career. That's basically what I try to do when I teach a class. And, as long as we've been teaching together, I do have a real deep passion for the fire service. I've had that ever since, I guess I was about 15 or 16. And that's about as close as I'll tell you to what I'm doing. But basically, I just wanted to make sure everybody can succeed in their career or whatever they want. And hopefully, I can help them. And like I've heard you talk to the other instructors and stuff on this podcast, my line is always open. No matter where you're at, I'll be more than happy to help you in anything you want to do. Not if you want to get out of the fire service and do something else. Any way I can help you, I will.
That's good. I mean, I know you've always been able to answer the phone anytime I rung it, and a lot of our students, it's reassuring to them that no matter how long you've been teaching, you still constantly keep that mindset that our students come first. So, with you being an instructor, when you walk in that classroom, what are you looking for in a student?
Wow. When I first walk into a classroom, I look around the whole room just to gotta get a mindset of what kind of people I got in there. I might even have them get up and introduce themselves and why they want to get into the fire service or what they want to do, and, or why they want to be in the class that we're doing. You know, a lot of people, the boss said for me to go, and that's the tough one to teach. And then I have people in there that every word you say, you can see it. They're grasping at every word you're sitting there talking about and telling them and everything, and they don't hesitate to ask you a question. I hate it when people sit in class and won't say nothing because they think it's a dumb question. I try to tell everybody there is no such thing as a dumb question. A dumb question is one that maybe somebody else might need to know the same answer, but they were scared to ask. And I want the students to speak up and say, hey, can you explain what that was? Or can you show me an example of what that would be? And that's what I try to do.
Exactly. Like the only dumb question is the one that's not asked.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, so I mean, because we get a ton of questions coming in from students a lot of times, and a lot of them are. I don't know if they were conditioned to where you don't need to ask any questions. I told you what you need to know, but there's not a way for us to be able to gauge and tell if they're really getting the information if they don't ask questions. Then we find
Yes.
out on test day that they were struggling, and that's not what we want. We want to make sure they're ready before that time comes, because you know a written test is one thing, but when they walk out of the gate, it's not test time no more. I mean, it's real. I want to make
Yeah.
sure they're good before they get to that.
Yeah, I try to make them have the ability that when they get out into their station or whatever, and they run that first call, they might think that, now wait a minute, what did Mr. Calvin say to do? Oh yeah, and they go on and click. That's what I want them to do, is to click and work, so they're not hurting anybody. You got so many people nowadays that look at it and go, yeah, okay, it's a job. No, it's not a job. If you do something wrong, somebody's hurt or dead. People's got to realize that nowadays. And a lot of students we have don't have that concept. They're looking for when's the first break? When do we go to lunch? Do we have to be here the whole day? Uh, is this going to be a full 40 hours? Are we going to have less time? Are we going to have enough time to practice skills to make sure we understand the skills? And, I'm willing to stay after if we have to stay after. If the student wants to still work on some stuff that he might not be too sure of, I'll stay there until he feels comfortable with going. And I don't care what time it is. I might get home at midnight and have to come back the next morning at 7 o'clock, but I'm going to try to help him. That's my motto.
There you go. And we don't have, I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. That level of dedication sometimes is not as strong as it used to be. I
No.
mean, a lot of things have changed in the fire service, and you know, from the amount of time whenever I started, the mindset of our instructors are changing. The students have changed. So with that question, and I'm sure we're gonna get in some really really good conversation with this, but how much has changed in the fire service in the ways of being an instructor since you first started back in '78?
Wow.
I mean, I
To
know it's
be
a
on,
lot, but I mean, you got to figure you started when I was born. I'll lay it out there, you know. So the year I was born was the year you started being an instructor. And in the same aspect, I've got students now, you know, I was in the fire service well before them being born. So I mean, now I'm kind of where you are or where you were years ago. Um, so how much has changed since the beginning concepts of whenever you were an instructor to what you're witnessing now? Because I mean, you're not as much of an instructor role as you are an evaluator. You come in and do a lot of evaluations for us. um, you still teach hazmat and stuff, but as far as your basic firemanship classes and things like that, you're on a lot more of an evaluator role. So how much has changed in the training from way back then? I mean, I'm not talking about when you and Uncle Don were stomping out the burning bush, but I mean,
the burning bush. Oh, yes. When I first started in fire service, there was so many things that was like today. The equipment, you know, I tell all the instructors that I teach and show through classes, you got to keep current because the new equipment's coming out here, and you got to be able to use it. And you got to be able to direct the student to use it. And I saw it when I first started. It was basically okay. This is what you got to do. If this house is on fire, you got to go this and get it done. Nowadays, you got to give them the technical aspects, tell them what the building's built like so they can understand. So if they go in there, that building ain't gonna fall in on them for no reason. And I see the equipment we got. It's night and day like it was when I first started. You know, when I first started, a general, you go over, you put it in pump gear, you pull a lever, water come out, and you hope that you had the right pressure. Nowadays, that you got to be specific and put down, okay, I need to have this much pressure to give me this many gallons a minute out of the hose. And then the students try to understand that concept, but you know, it's just it's it's so changed so much. It's if you don't keep current with it, you might as well just step down and say you're lost.
And think about the difference in it in your students. I
Oh,
mean, think of the difference of students in the last 45 plus years. I mean, because your
when I
student, we had to deal with COVID. We had to deal with so many different things just
yeah
in the last few years, and that's made a big difference in the way we change our delivery and stuff with a lot of our students.
yeah well when yeah COVID, that was a real eye opener for me because I remember in the middle of it, y'all had a class going right in the middle of it, and the academy had shut down. But they said that I had to keep coming because you had to get these guys on the street because you had so many people calling in with COVID and all this stuff and trying to get everybody ready to go. I'll never forget that day in the station 15 beside the training building in Bayboro when they had like a little table sitting up and I was sitting up on top looking over the whole bay where they pulled all the equipment out and put all the chairs around there and we separated everybody so we could go on and do the test and get them out on the street. You know, and I remember that. But the students that we had back in the beginning, we had more volunteers. We didn't have that many paid people because everybody had their own job and they just said, hey, I can throw in a few hours here and a few hours there and I can help you out when I can. And they went for it. And a lot of business back then would let you go if you had a fire in the middle of the daytime to go fight the fire and then come back afterwards and go back to work. And now that's switched. But then all of a sudden they start saying, okay, you got to have this certification. You got to have this. It's getting to the point where it's hard to have volunteers anymore. It's more based on full-time people knowing the job to make sure it's done.
Yeah, it's definitely. I would say I applaud anybody that's going to volunteer their time to help their community.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. But in the same aspect, somebody modern because there is so much more to do than what there was when I first started. I mean, you got to figure a Fire One curriculum's no joke, and then doing that 2 nights a week and every other Saturday or something. I mean, that takes a lot of dedication, and I applaud the people that go to do that and do it on a volunteer basis, without any kind of compensation.
Yeah.
Um, so
We didn't when we had volunteers back then, they didn't get paid. You know, they do have a paid per call nowadays. They didn't have that back when I first got into service. You did it because you felt the need to help the community out you lived in.
mhm.
And that's what we all basically volunteered our time. And we enjoyed, well, I don't say enjoy, we had a lot of fun doing it because most of the time you knew when you went out there somebody was having a bad day and you was trying to make it better. And that's what we basically went out there for. And we trained. God, we trained. They had so much training, it was unreal. We had at least two training nights a week. And then every other Saturday we had all day long or a whole weekend tied up with training, tried to get everybody up to the new current stuff. And then the people that was there, you knew they wanted to be there. What have we got nowadays? We got people that says, okay, I'm here for today. I might not be here tomorrow. I might not be here next week. I just want to know if it's okay if I leave, if I need to leave. And I don't have any problem with that, because people got to have a reality check. This is not for everybody. It's a few people out there that you can see them when you walk in the classroom. They're just ready for anything and everything. And then you go in there and you see those people sitting back there. Maybe I really shouldn't have done this. I didn't think it was going to be this involved. And try to get them involved so they can do it so they won't get anybody hurt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely a task. It is, and the biggest thing we can do to make that be better is clear expectations from the beginning. Let them know what's going to be expected, what it's going to entail, what it's going to take, and then try to keep coaching them and mentoring them to get them through it.
Yeah.
Now, I ask all my instructors this, and since you were bringing up the topic, we know that everybody's not made for this job. So, how do you feel is the right way to handle it when you see somebody's not measuring up? And the second part to that is, how long do you think we need to wait until something's said? Because, sometimes you might need to give the people the benefit of the doubt and a little extra coaching, but, how far do we let it go before we say, this isn't for you?
Wow. That's a tough question.
It is.
That's a real tough question. I've seen sometimes where I've walked in to do an evaluation or something, and I'm sitting there looking at the person, and I usually comment to y'all. I said, is he really or is she really set to handle this job as a career? I don't know. I've worked with them. I've done everything under the sun to try to help them. But after a while, it gets to the point where, okay, now I got to look out for the rest of the group. If we keep them on, are we giving a liability that she might or he might hurt somebody by doing the wrong thing? How to tell them to. I have suggested people you might want to do a reality check and see this is really what you want to do. Because it's a more to it than with it yourself by teaching every day in the academy in Horry County. You got to realize that day in and day out, you got 10 hours a day that you're putting material out to them and you're doing skills and stuff like that. And you can see the students that's grasping it. Then you see the ones that need a little bit of help to understand what you're trying to get them to do. And then you got some that no matter what you do, you got to repeat or repeat. How long do we repeat? Yeah, I don't want to see anybody get laid off from the fire service because they couldn't do the skills. But they also got to do a reality check to themselves. Are they really capable or physically ready to do this job? Because it's more demanding than any other job you could have. It's so demanding out there that you got to make sure that I don't know, I've always looked at it that if I have a crew out there and I work with a crew, do I have to worry about any of my crew out there, or do they know their job that they need to do? And I had it to the point where I didn't have to say a word on a call. They all knew their job and they knew it well. And then I had one or two times where they was a little behind, they couldn't quite get it, and I had to keep working with them. And then finally they come up to me and say, I'm really not cut up for this job. So I tried to help them to get something else in the city or go somewhere else and try to help them out, to make them successful in their life. Because you talk about people's moving down here from up north, out west, whatever. That's a big move to go across the United States to come to work. And then all of a sudden you go halfway through the recruit class and you find out you're really not capable of doing a job, or this is not what you're cut out for. You don't want to just let them high and dry. You want to try to help them find something that they can do and do it right.
Yeah. I think as instructors, us being honest is probably one of the most important things we can do.
Yeah.
If we see something not measuring up, we need to be honest right from the start.
Yeah.
Not saying we're going to write them off right from the start, but we need to
No.
be honest right from the start. So that way they understand, hey, this isn't what it needs to be. We need to start putting in some extra work. And then that way it gives them a gauge on whether they're getting better or worse. And if we have that student that we see that's initially struggling, maybe we need to start having those daily evals every afternoon. Hey, today was a good day. Today wasn't so good. We got
Yeah.
to work harder tomorrow. And that way they give them something to gauge with, and because we want everybody to be successful. And if they don't go and they don't make it through the fire service, fine. I want them to be successful as a person.
Oh yes, I agree with that 100%. You know that I want to see them succeed no matter what. If it's not in the fire service, if they find another position in the county or wherever they're at, and they can move to it or transfer to it, I'll be more than happy to back them or help them out any way I can to succeed in that position. But I just, you've seen it in doing your classes and stuff. There's certain people in there. I don't know when you're going to say, okay, do you really need it? Well, don't let them get so far into the class that now they got, I don't know, they don't have anywhere else to go. And if they don't make it this time, what are they going to do? They just moved their whole family down from wherever, and they're out of a job, and I don't like that. I never have.
No, and it's not on us as instructors that I mean, but one of the big things is that adds a lot more stress to us because knowing our students. You said that to start off with. Know your students,
Yeah,
and in knowing our students, we know what they've got on the plate. So that's why we work as hard as we do to try to help our students be successful because we don't. We're human beings. We've got hearts. We've got feelings. We're always not a bunch of hard behinds yelling at a bunch of recruits. But we know they've got a family to take care of. We know they're if they're on a career status, in a career recruit academy, we understand that that's their paycheck. That's their livelihood. If they're a volunteer and we're training volunteer firemen, we understand they've got, something else that puts bread on the table, but maybe this is their dream. Their dream's to help the community. It's just that, they needed a different way to bring the paycheck in. And it's just like I was saying before, I think just honesty is the biggest thing. Let them know if they're measuring up or not, and have those hard conversations. I mean, and a lot of times I think they'll appreciate those hard conversations as long as it's done the right way. You know,
yeah,
treating them like a person, do it the right way.
yeah.
So, as an instructor, what do you think is one of the most important things for you to instill in your students?
Well, that's a good question. You're asking tough questions like there, young man. The biggest thing I say is if we're doing something where they've got to use some type of equipment or something, that they can do it proficiently and train enough where it's like second hand to them. They don't have to sit there and go, now what did they say that we had to do with this to make this happen again? They can get out and do it. I've seen so many times where the student goes through the class to get into the evaluation. I come out there to evaluate them, and they act like they've never seen the object before, or never seen the tool they was using before, and they're like lost. Yeah, I
It's
know
called,
they have.
it's called test amnesia. We see it all the time.
Yeah, it's called test amnesia, but it's even worse when I walk out there and I'm going, "Oh my God!" And now I got to say, "Okay, you didn't make it this time. We'll see you in the second round or something like that." I commend you guys because y'all are running 2 and 3 recruit classes on top of each other. I don't even see how y'all keep it together half the time. I really don't.
But I think one of the things you're trying to say is instill the importance of repetition.
Yeah.
Don't do it till you get it right. Do it till you can't do it
Can't
the
get,
wrong way.
yeah, that's it.
Instilling in them to do it over and over and over.
Oh yes, that's basically it. I want them to get it down to the point where they could do it in their sleep. They could pick the thing up and work the tool or whatever in their sleep. They know exactly what button to push, how to do it, what not to tie, to do whatever they got to do, or how to hold the hose so it's not going to get away from them. That's the worst thing you can have is when you open up that nozzle and all of a sudden the hose just takes off and leaves you. That's like, oh my God, what happened?
All right. So here's the hard one, and we'll see how
Okay.
much talking we get out of this one. We'll wrap it up with this one. When you finally decide to retire,
Tomorrow.
you know how many times I've heard that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm in the realms of you gonna have to show me and not tell me anymore. I've heard you retire 500 times in the last year, but when you really decide that you're ready to retire, you're ready to get on that permanent mobile home, or not mobile home, but you and the wife get in the RV and go see the country and relax. And when you decide it's time that I'm gonna hang my hat up, what do you want the stories of Mr. Calvin to be?
Oh Lord, what do I want the stories to be? He was a crazy old man that taught us a lot, and we. I don't know. Really, I like to. The only thing I like to do is succeed in their job, make sure everybody's safe, so I ain't got to pick the paper up and read where somebody got hurt or killed. That's the worst thing, worst feeling. Because as soon as I see that, the first thing that goes to my mind: did I teach him properly? Did I cover everything I needed to cover? Could I have done something different to make it different than what it is? And I look at that, just like the fires we had over here in Carolina Forest, looking at some of the pictures and stuff that come out of that place. That was a nightmare to happen, and these guys did a great job. Y'all didn't lose a single house, did you?
No, sir.
I didn't think you did. I didn't see nothing. Some damage, some siding melting. Hey, that's that's called
I
doing
think
business.
the final count, or the last count I'd heard, is that there were 7 homes with a little bit of exterior damage, but no major fire to
Well,
any structures.
that's good. But I look at the people. I want them to say, I learned something from the old man that come out there. I know he's crazy. He has to wear his Virginia Tech hat and all this stuff. But I just want to make sure that they understand. I'm there to make sure that they understand their job, that they can do it and not worry about something happening. If it does happen, I hope they got enough common sense to get themselves out or get away from it as much as possible so it's not very much damage. They can go back. And, you know, I I know how Don is. I love the man to death. He was one of my mentors when I was coming up through here, but I just want to make sure that everybody can say that, yep, he did show me a few things. He showed me a few tricks out of that. And as like I always tell everybody, I'm a textbook of worthless knowledge. And they go, no, you're not. But I tried to make sure that they understand there's a lot more than one way to do anything. And they need to know that if one ain't working, they got something else to follow.
I would have to say my Mr. Calvin story would be he's a crazy old man that really, really loves the fire service, because a man that's been doing it for almost 50 years and not slowing down and still taking the time to teach 18, 19-year-old brand new recruits and students the craft is somebody that loves the job. There's no other way to describe it. And I want to personally tell you thank you for everything you do for the fire service, because you help the people of the fire service, and especially the people in the state of South Carolina, a lot. My goal is to get close one day to the amount of hours that you and Mr. Don have put on the books for the Fire Academy. I mean, I think that's a strong goal for any instructor to do, and try to make the impact that you guys have made. And I applaud you for all your years of hard work and everything you have done.
Well, like I tell all the students I see nowadays, they look at me and they go, God, you're an old guy here. I said, my job nowadays is to make you an old firefighter and retired and still can do something about it. That's my that's my theory, and I appreciate it, Wayne. I've enjoyed working with all y'all. Y'all have really got a good dedication group out there that's doing the training, and y'all working your buns off right now, and I appreciate it. And any way I can help, I'm going to.
Well, Mr. Calvin, once again, we thank you for everything you do, and I personally thank you for coming on the show today so everybody can meet Mr. Calvin, because everybody doesn't get the chance to meet you. At least I was kind of hoping they get to see you, but technology is what technology is. At least they get to listen to you, and I'll see if I can get a stick figure up on the side of the screen or something for you. But
just put one of an old sour cow or something up there.
but yeah, thanks so much for being on the show, and we're fixing to wrap it up, and don't go anywhere real quick. Everybody, this man has spent the last 3 decades with me, teaching me in some way, shape, or form, and now I've got the pleasure of working shoulder to shoulder with him all the time now. For me, as somebody in the fire service that's spent 30 years in it, this guy's still one of my mentors. This is what I'm talking about whenever I preach to everybody that is instructors about mentor. Find that person and mentor them. Never let them go. It's about people. It's about a job. I mean, the job is so important, and making sure people can do the job and we do the right things to teach them. But it's so much more about people. Find somebody, love up on them, let them know you're there for them, let them know you want to see them succeed, and you're going to help them do whatever they need to get there. So thanks, guys. I appreciate everybody listening. And until next week, keep learning.